All right, without further ado, I am proud to introduce someone who needs no introduction, our president-elect, Chad Stamm, a wonderful Rotarian who's going to share with us his vision for the future of Rotary. It's his 10th year of BRC membership, and he was sponsored by Ron Seacrest. He's been very passionate about Rotary Youth Exchange, and he is a partner and executive creative director at TMC Digital Media, and he loves the Florida Gators. And he'll talk about that all the time. All right, welcome, Chad.
Well, while we're waiting, we had a little excitement here today too, Sally. We had a fire broke out in the house next door. It was a little electrical fire. So we came back from dropping my son off from school and there were fire trucks everywhere. So it's been a little exciting around here as well.
Did you get evacuated?
No. Luckily, it was very small and they got it out quickly and there was no damage. So,
oh, good.
I think everything is fine. All right, so let's roll into this. First of all, I just want to say thanks everyone for, this opportunity to lead the club. This is a true honor for me, and I'm looking forward to the year ahead. So let's talk a little bit about that. Does anyone know who this is? Well, I can tell you I don't either. I have no idea who this is. But I want to start with a quick story. So about a year and a half ago, I was at a business meeting back when we can still have business meetings. And we had an icebreaker that was to mention something about yourself that nobody else knows. So I could have mentioned the time that I was bitten by a snake when I was 8 years old, or that I lived about a mile away from the World Trade Center on 9/11, or that I'm currently working on writing a novel, or that I've only missed 4 Indianapolis 500 since 1983. But what I mentioned was that I was the president-elect nominee of my Rotary Club. So I could hear some questions in the back of the room. What is Rotary? What is a Rotary Club? What does Rotary do? And then there was this one guy at the peanut gallery all the way in the back, and he probably looked like this guy here on the screen. And when I mentioned that I was in Rotary, he said, "Clearly, that means you're the most boring person in the room." Verbatim. So these are some of the questions and assumptions that we all face as Rotarians. So we all know this, the wheel. The reality, though, is that when people see that, they don't know what it is. They've never seen it before. They don't know what it stands for. They don't know what it represents. They don't know anything about the people who make it work and make that wheel spin. Now, that's a problem, but I believe that that's also an opportunity. Because once you do notice the wheel, it's very hard to stop noticing it. This has happened to me several times in my own travels. This here is a model of the Boulder Tower made for the vision impaired. It's in Lisbon, Portugal, and the Rotary Club there put this together so vision impaired folks could experience this as well. Here's another photo that my wife snapped from the car as we were driving through Nicoya, Costa Rica. And then this slide, does anyone know who this is? Let's play that again. This is my dad. Now, this is a picture I took of my dad in Brussels. This was about 10 years ago. And I'm not quite sure whether he was smiling about the wheel or the Gremberg and beer sign over his other shoulder. But the point is that Rotary is everywhere. And once we're actually aware of what Rotary is, it's hard to stop seeing it. But we'll talk about more on Rotary and travels here a little bit later. Now, we all know that there's a bunch of potential Rotarians out there in our community and in our nation and in our world. People might know the idea of living a life of service, and some might even desire it. But the problem is that many people don't know where to go to actually live a life like that, or if there is an organization that lives like it. So this is one of the top challenges that we face as Rotarians, but again, this is also one of our biggest opportunities. That should be an easy dot to connect, and I'm also going to talk about that here in a minute as well. So let's take a little bit of a look back here at the last 14 months. Transformations, transitions, challenges, whatever you want to call it. We just went through 14 months that most of us never thought that we were going to see. So as people of action, we pivoted, we made it work thanks to the amazing dedication of past President John and President Sally, as well as the entire meeting management crew and the Zoom teams. We kept things going from the very, very beginning, which was really impressive. And at least for me personally, you know, as we were going into those dark days in the beginning, it was a moment of clarity and something that I knew could be normal in my day. And I was really appreciative of that. Then we made the best of the new reality when we knew that we were in for the long haul. And, you know, again, I'd like to really thank John Sullivan for making that happen because his leadership got us through that. So once we knew that we were in this, we made the best of things even better. And we got creative. We thought outside the box. We even had some fun. We did some work in the community to help mitigate the impacts of the pandemic. And certainly, President Sally, we really want to thank you for all the work that you did. But now what? So who are we and who do we want to be? Well, it's pretty clear that we're a lunch club, and it's also pretty clear that we really, really miss getting together in person, sitting down at the table, and having meals together. That's who we are at our core, and I don't think that is ever going to change. Right now, I would love to be standing in line with Tom, hopefully on Lasagna Day, which is always my favorite day, sitting down with a piece of garlic bread and maybe some salad and having a chat and hearing how everyone's week went. We're going to get back to that. We're also a club that has great speakers. We're known for our TED Talk quality speakers and programs, and that's going to continue. We're going to keep doing that. We're also going to be a hybrid club. And I think what we've seen in the last 14 months with access to Zoom, that's not going to change. That's going to continue. That's what Rotary International wants. That's what District 5450 wants. And that's what our members want as well. Now, one of the tasks that we have ahead of us is to figure out how that's going to work. But when we do figure that out, and we definitely will, it will be an opportunity for new members to join. It will be an opportunity for us to better connect our club and make it more accessible. And it's going to be an opportunity for us to grow. So how are we going to get there to that model of hybrid in person? And I think the answer is that it's really going to depend on how we frame things. So I thought this was a fitting photograph for this slide. And for those of you who don't know, this picture was taken by former Boulder Rotarian Chris Caruth. It's from the Visionaria program, and it won the best photo in the Rotary magazine a while back. But back to how we're going to do this. Now, obviously, we're going to go back to a more familiar due structure. When we meet back in person, that's going to require meeting fees and meal fees and such. So that's something that is hopefully in our future soon. We're also going to be looking for and considering new ways to accommodate people who either can't make Friday lunches or who choose not to. There should still be opportunities for service and fellowship outside of our Friday meetings. Now, the membership committee is currently developing some proposals and some ideas for the board to review. And then those changes, once the board reviews and makes some recommendations, if there are any votes that need to come to the attention of the membership at large, that will happen. Obviously, if there's any membership changes or changes to due structures, that needs to come before the whole body. So there's going to be more on that to come. Now, back to the dot that I was mentioning earlier. We can attract new members and young professionals, but how do we do it? How do we attract those people looking for a life of service. Now, studies show more and more of the younger demographics are tired of affiliations, particularly if those affiliations lead to divisions. They're sick of fighting because nothing ever gets done. Well, that's where Rotary can fill the void. We are pragmatic, we're people of action, and we get things done. That's what we do. It's on our website, it's on our mottos, it's in our hearts, it's in our minds, and that's who we are. This dot should not be difficult to connect. It should be easy to connect the dot between young professionals looking for pragmatic ways to serve and what we do. We are the movers and shakers. Well, we are the movers. Now let me introduce you to Shaker.
On thinking about others, let me share one of my Rotary moments. I had just joined my Rotary club and the club organized a limb camp. Here we were distributing calipers, artificial limbs and hand cycles. Every member was given some responsibility and so was I. I was to check if the beneficiary of the hand cycle had enough strength in his hand to ride the tricycle by his hands. And I was to do this by asking the beneficiary to pull my hand so that I could fathom the strength in his hands. As I stood in my designated spot, waiting for the beneficiary to come, I saw him crawling towards me. He had no legs, so he had to crawl towards me. I stretched my hands to hold his, and I'll be honest, in that moment, I was thinking about me and not about him. I was thinking about my cleanliness, my health. I did not want to hold his hand, but I did it and kept thinking of myself for the second and third set of hands. But suddenly, after the sixth, seventh set of hands, my empathy towards their plight grew. And soon enough, I could feel their pain, their challenges. And I was thinking more about them than I was thinking of myself. It was at that moment, friends, when from being just a member of my Rotary club, I became a Rotarian. Soon I started attending more club projects. As a Rotarian, when I had first gone out to the rural areas of India 35 years back, I truly understood the plight of my brethren. They had no toilets in their homes. The water they drank from was from the same pond that they bathed in. The schools were in the shade of a tree, and the black painted wall was the only blackboard in the school. The nearest health center was a few miles away with basic facilities. And then, through my Rotary Club, we helped set up toilets, provided clean drinking water. We enhanced the education system and set up world-class health facilities, not just in my community or my city, but in my country. Rotary kindled the spark within me to look beyond myself and embrace humanity. Service became a way of life for me, and my life's guiding philosophy became, service is the rent I pay for the space I occupy on this earth. And I want to be a good tenant of this earth. I'm sure each of you also has found your opportunity to serve. You too may have provided eyesight to the blind, food to the hungry, homes to the homeless. They may have been small opportunities of service or large projects. More than just the size, it is the attitude that defines service. Gandhi was once getting up on a train. Even as he was getting up on the train started moving and one of his slippers fell off. Gandhi's immediate reaction was to throw his other slipper to where the previous one had fallen. His friend who was traveling with him asked him, "Why did you do that?" Gandhi said, "Someone will find that slipper. What good will be one slipper to him? So I threw the other." Friends, it was a small act of service, but I think it was a big attitude of service. Are we also ready to think of others before we think of ourselves? As Rotarians, we can do just that.
So that was Shaker Mehta, the president-elect of Rotary International. Two things jumped out at me when I watched that video. The first one is that Rotary kindled the spark within me to look beyond myself and embrace humanity. The second is that service is the rent I pay for the space I occupy in this earth, and I want to be a good tenant of this earth. I thought the Gandhi story was pretty cool too. So let's go briefly through Shaker's goals for 2021-2022. The first is to empower girls and women to ensure access to education, resources, and opportunity. The next is to make diversity, equity, and inclusion part of Rotary's compass. The third is to increase membership. We've been stuck on 1.2 million members for about 20 years. And the question is, can we get to 1.3 million by July of 2022? Shaker has an idea, a program called Each One Bring One, and he's challenging every one of us to bring at least one person to a Rotary meeting before the end of the next Rotary year. The next is to end polio now. We're going to continue those efforts to eradicate polio. And so far, the latest I had heard is that there are only 2 endemic cases so far in 2021, which is pretty remarkable. And then, of course, the next step to that is to pivot and really help the world, rid the world of COVID-19. The last of all the things above, we're going to tack on local community service to that list as well. And we've got another quick video to show you here.
Many of you have been an important part of similar service projects, and you have changed the lives of people. There was a need to serve, and you served. Today, the need to serve has become even more necessary and apparent. So, my dear change-maker governors, in the coming Rotary year, I request you, urge you, cajole you to serve people and help to change their lives. So, my dear governors, our theme for the year 2021-2022 is Serve to Change Lives.
Serve to change lives. So how are we going to do that? Now, of the 5 points that I listed before that were his goals, it's pretty clear that our club is doing many of these things already, which is pretty remarkable. We've seen highlights recently at recent meetings of a lot of our programs and projects and good works. But what's next? What about the future of the Boulder Rotary Club? So first of all, I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but we have a program called Computers for Students. This is a project working with partners in both Israel and the West Bank to eliminate the burning of computers for scrap, instead taking those computers, refurbishing them, and providing them to lower income schools in Hebron and other cities in the West Bank. There's benefits on both sides of the wall for this. There's benefits by Israelis and Palestinians, and clearly this is a time where we need any sort of relation building we can there. I'm also proud to announce right now to the club that thanks to the good work of Meryl Glustrom and Jim Radowski and the guidance of Alessandro Sachs, this program has been awarded a global grant. Now, speaking of the Middle East, we're also continuing discussions that began before COVID with our friend Chuck here. We met back in February of 2020 to talk about this. But what we'd like to do is unite efforts from Rotary, Habitat for Humanity, and the Seeds of Peace organization, essentially getting Israeli and Palestinian youth working together to do a habitat build in Amman, Jordan for some sort of structure that is going to be beneficial to the community there. So we're looking to ramp this up again now that potentially the borders are going to open and we're going to be able to travel. But COVID put a stop to this before, so this could be on the horizon as well. There are also discussions about contributing to any potential community memorial or plaque or piece of memorabilia for the victims of the King Soopers tragedy. And I just saw something today. I don't know if anybody saw this, but Jonah Hughes has put forth a complete bipartisan, with complete bipartisan support to name our post office after Officer Talley. So that was pretty cool if anybody hadn't seen that yet. But this could be on our potential horizon as well. There's also going to likely be significant additional funding coming from the Leo Hill Foundation, which I think would come through in Cassidy's year. But this means that we're going to be able to fund additional scholarships. Now, our Peace Builders Committee is currently working on a scalable depolarization project to help promote better communication between the different sides of our political divide. The goal and the hope is that we can come up with a program or some sort of guideline that is scalable and that we can share with other clubs and other districts. And I know close to Bill Rubin's heart, we're going to get kids back to RILA. We all know the impact that this program has, and we look forward to the day when we can start sending students again. Closer to my heart, we're really hoping that for the next year, the borders are going to be open and we're going to get our exchange program up and running again as well. And of course, there are so many more programs and ideas that aren't even here yet, things that people haven't thought of from potential Rotarians that aren't members yet, that we're going to look to move forward on in the future. But there's one other thing that I want to make sure that we do, and that's have some fun. So starting with the rescheduling of the Boulder Rotary Motor Movie, this is likely going to be for later in the summer, although Cassidy and I have had some back and forth on it today. I think it could actually happen in September, but stay tuned for that. That should be a fun event. And earlier I mentioned looking for the wheel when you travel. Well, I'd like to start a little bit of a competition. Whoever can bring back the most banners while visiting Rotary clubs will get a personal match from me to help get someone to their next Paul Harris level of fellowship. International travel, going to visit other clubs, it really does mean that much to me. It's been such a huge part of my experience that I hope everyone else can make efforts to visit other Rotary clubs when they travel abroad or in the US. Now, this one is going to take a little bit of explanation. Some of us might look at this graphic and say, I know exactly what that is. Others may not. When I first joined Boulder Rotary, I was told that we had 64 committees. Now, when you hear the number 64 and you're a college hoops fan, or when you're a college hoops Gator fan, you automatically think of March Madness. So what if we did a fundraiser that pits our committees against each other, one against one, round by round? Now, the details are still to be worked out on this, but next March, look for our own version of committee craziness. And then finally, what I'm really hoping more than anything is that we can all get together and just have a big party. So we have a lot to look forward to in the coming year and a lot of reasons to be excited. The world is reconnecting, thankfully, and it's time to plant some new seeds. I am truly honored to follow Sally and plan to continue on all the hard work she's put in. And my goal is not to lead per se, but it's to support. I want to support everyone in any way I can so we can all keep doing all the great things that we do together. Now, I want to leave with one final question. Who is this? I think we all know the answer to this one. This is a photo of the most interesting people in the world, not the most boring people in the room. And all it really takes is sitting down at a table for one single lunch to figure that out. And I can promise you we're going to do that very soon. So thank you for listening.
Great. Thank you, Chad. So we do have, if anyone has any questions, put it in the chat room and we will get to it. Our first question comes from Meryl Glustrom. Go ahead, Meryl. Go right ahead, Merrill.
Merrill, you may be muted.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Chad, thanks for moving into the role of president of Boulder Rotary Club. I'm looking forward to a great year of meeting in person and instituting a hybrid model for our club. That's exciting. My question is, do you see a path forward in enriching the diversity in our club?
That's one of the million-dollar questions, I think. And, you know, that's something that we've been asking since I've been in the club. I'm not sure if everybody is aware, but there is a DEI subcommittee that has worked to talk about these things for the better part of the last year. They've even had a significant influence in the selections for the Rotary Book Club. You know, I don't have an answer for you, Merrill. I don't know that anybody in this club does. I think all we can really do is try to spread the word as best we can. And if you throw enough things on the wall, something will stick, right? So if we can reach people and we can talk to people and we can help them understand who we are and what we do, I'm hoping that we can reach a more diverse clientele of members as well. Now, you know, the other question I think that really feeds into that is just in general, what is membership going to look like? And I think we have 3 clubs in Boulder, and not every meeting time works for every person. Some people don't want to meet for lunch, some people do. So I think those discussions that the membership committee is going to have moving forward, those discussions that are basically going to be the root of what does membership look like, you know, I think those things probably need to be figured out before we go out and, you know, really present who we are. I think we need to figure out who we are first.
Thanks so much, Chad. I'm into helping however I can.
Thank you, Merrill, and thanks for all your work on the computer project. I'm really excited to help see that move forward.
Great. Thank you, Merrill. Thank you, Chad. Next question, Darrell Brown.
Sorry, I was getting some echo on my iPad. So Chad, I was asked this question. I think it was Jack Thompson that asked me right before I started my Rotary year. It's actually 2 questions. What scares you the most? And what are you looking forward to the most?
I'm looking forward to getting back together with everybody. I mean, that's number one. And I think, hey, we're operating by the 4-way test here, right? So I'm going to lay it all out there for you guys. I am actually horrible. I mean, horrible at putting names with faces. So my biggest fear is that somebody draws the lottery ticket and I look out and either I can't see the face very well or I don't know the name of that person. And it just turns into an embarrassing snafu. That is honestly, God, my biggest fear.
I got to do a follow-up on that one. So what I used to do is I'd blame the glare at the Avalon for that. Okay. So don't worry about that. That happened.
Okay.
And we're behind you, Chad.
I appreciate that. Maybe I could have someone just yell out names and you know, we could figure out an intermediary because I am horrible putting names and faces together.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chad. Next is Bill Anderson. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Bill.
Chad, I have a couple of questions. First question, we've been able to leverage the virtual platform this year to include speakers from as far away as Germany. Even as we return to in-person meetings, will we continue to consider speakers that will appear remotely, or will we transition back to only in-person speakers?
That's a great question. I'd like to start by pitching that the chairwomanship of the committee is open currently. So if anyone has a real interest in programs, you know, please let me know. I think we're going to have a wide committee anyway. I think probably what we can do is maybe meet quarterly. I'm not sure how that's really worked in the past. I would like to have a big role in the programs. I personally feel that coming back to meeting in person, the quality of programs that we have as we do that is really going to be critical. especially in the beginning. To answer your question directly, yes, I think that we can still look to bring in people from around the world. When I was at PETS, there are several clubs that I was sort of connected in with, and they're back to meeting in person full time. They've been doing that for 6 months. They're still having speakers from other places around the world. They're doing it virtually, and basically the way it was described to me, they kind of sit there, they have lunch, then they watch TV together, and then they discuss what they just watched. So I think we can maybe figure out some ways to make it a little bit more exciting than that. But yes, I fully feel that we can expand our search for programs beyond just Boulder.
Awesome. Thank you. Second question, I'll take my answer offline. Do you have a plan to prevent Bill Anderson from winning all of the raffles moving forward?
I do. I'm not going to recognize your face.
Very good, very good. Yeah, leave some money for us, Bill Anderson, if you could. So next question is from Peter Ewing. You had a comment.
Yeah, I wonder if you've considered, I look at this club and its diversity is improving when you're talking about women members, when you're talking about younger and older members and so on, but the diversity doesn't include people of color. And one of the issues I've always thought about is perhaps dues costs and so on. So is there any thought with a hybrid meeting schedule where people can log in, you may be able to save on certain costs, especially food costs. But what are your comments on ways to get people of color joining Boulder Rotary?
Peter, that's a great question, and that's something that we've discussed with the membership committee. As I alluded to, we're looking to figure out how hybrid is going to work. What is it going to look like? And then what are the different levels of membership if we decide that that's the best way to go? Are we going to offer? And I think that's going to be critical to this. Do we have a component that is just virtual? Do we have a membership level that is full on in person? Is that all that we have? I mean, do we want to offer different levels? And these are all the questions that the membership committee right now is weighing. And I think we're probably maybe a couple weeks, a month away from presenting some of those ideas to the board.
Great.
Great.
But yeah, one more thing about that too, because this is something that, I mean, I feel like there are maybe some folks who aren't ready to commit or can't commit, or maybe there's a financial barrier or even a time barrier to being present on Fridays. And that may not exist forever. Sometimes those barriers could be removed, but whether or not that happens, I think that we could possibly figure out a scenario where a virtual level type membership, as you're referring to, is a stepping stone to full membership in the club. You know, maybe call it Rotary Light. I don't know. But people want to kind of find out what it's about. You know, maybe they don't have 3 hours on Friday to get to and from the JCC and, you know, eat lunch and have a meeting. So maybe we can offer, you know, that type of engagement level, which could lead to, you know, full membership later on.
Okay. Thank you for the comment, Peter. Thank you, Chad. And to wrap things up, I think we have someone who'd like to say something to you, Chad. Go right ahead.
Thanks, Mike. Surprise, babe. I am honored to be a responder for Chad, who doesn't know that I'm responding, which is why I was banished to another room, so I didn't make him laugh during his presentation. But I am honored to be a responder and the wonderful program he has presented to you all today. My name is Allison, and I am Chad's wife. While I already know many of you on this call, including my father-in-law and brother-in-law, I'm very much looking forward to the opportunity to meet many more of you this next year when Chad becomes president. Over the years, Chad has slowly taught me about your club, and I've seen all the wonderful things that you do. The Wise Journal Partnership, for example, is one of my favorites, and I've seen it bring joy to the kids firsthand this year with our Sebastian. Chad's leadership on Youth Exchange has also been inspiring, as we are self-proclaimed travel addicts, and it warms my heart to see kids being given the opportunity to go abroad with Rotary's help. No matter where we travel in the world, it seems we're often seeking out that Rotary wheel, and not surprisingly, many times we find it. The more I learn, the more I appreciate all that Rotary gives to the world, but has also given back to my husband. I'm incredibly proud of all the hard work Chad has put in Rotary thus far, and I know you won't be disappointed in his vision and plans in the upcoming year. When we first discussed the possibility of Chad taking on the role of president, selfishly, my first thought was how this additional commitment will impact our family time. Even though Daryl was very quick to assuage my fears and tell me, don't worry, Allie, you're just going to be arm candy. Well, I do plan on being on Chad's arm wherever I can, but not just as arm candy. I plan to support him in all ways and to do my part in making his year as successful as possible. After all, I'm already a Paul Harris Fellow, thanks to Glenn. Thank you, Cassidy, for asking me to respond, and I'll turn it over to Peter now to close with polio donations.
So Chad, I don't think I'm muted, but anyway, Chad, as I thought about responding to you as president-elect and soon to be president, I thought back at my experiences in Rotary, and they're quite parallel to yours, except it took me a lot longer to reach the milestones. I joined Rotary in 2090, and I didn't become president-elect until 2007. My president's year was 2008, 2009. Here you are, a 10-year Rotarian, and you're already club president to be. I was involved in Youth Exchange from the get-go, served on the club committee and then the district committee. You were involved with Youth Exchange from the get-go, but it's only been 10 years. And so you're a much quicker understudy than I ever was. Listening to your presentation, it indicates the tremendous focus that you have to youth. The youth programs are incredibly important to you. I joined Rotary because my daughter was sent to France as a Rotary Youth Exchange. And my message to you is, I hope you send your son on a youth exchange program somewhere in the world. That will complete the circle. I want to wish you all the best in your next year's experience. The next step that I took beyond membership was district governorship. And Allison, I don't know whether that's in the I don't know whether that's in the cards for Chad, but he would make an incredible district governor. So thank you, Chad, for a wonderful presentation. And in your honor, our club, your club, I'm an honorary member. Boulder Rotary will donate 100 doses of polio vaccine to eradicate polio for once and for all. So thank you very, very much for a great presentation.
Thank you, Peter. And I had some great mentorship from you. So that's probably why maybe it's been accelerated, is because I had your leadership to follow. So I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to see you on the call.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chad. That was a great presentation. Thank you, past District Governor Peter, for being here today. And thank you, Allie. It was really wonderful to see what we've got planned for the horizon, on the horizon, and to continue our service above self and our wonderful Boulder Rotary Club. So I'm looking forward to your leadership, Chad.